license and registration.
Officer, before I reach for anything, I need to inform you that I'm a federal law enforcement officer with ATF. My credentials are in the center console.
Just show me your driver's license and registration.
My federal credentials will explain everything. I'm Special Agent Cameron Ellis, ATF Denver Field Division. I've committed no traffic violation. I'd like to know
Those could be fake. I need your driver's.
Officer James Carter had been with the Denver Police Department for exactly 11 months when he made a decision that would destroy his law enforcement career and cost the city $2.6 million. He was 31 years old, fresh from the academy with passing scores and an evaluation that praised his eagerness while quietly questioning his ability to handle complex situations. He had no formal complaints yet because he'd barely been on patrol long enough to accumulate them, but his field training supervisor had documented 3 separate incidents where Mitchell made enforcement decisions based on assumptions rather than observable violations. Those concerns were filed away and ultimately dismissed because Denver PD's staffing shortages meant they couldn't afford to extend training periods for recruits who met the bare minimum standards. One Friday evening on Interstate 25, his inexperience and unchallenged biases intersected with a federal law enforcement officer heading home from work. And that intersection would end Carter's career before it truly started, trigger a Department of Justice investigation, and reveal how police departments deploy inadequately trained officers without sufficient oversight. A black man in his late 30s, Agent Cameron Ellis, was driving southbound in his personal vehicle after finishing his shift at the Denver ATF Field Division, wearing casual clothes and listening to jazz, his federal credentials in the center console and his service weapon secured in the trunk per off-duty protocol. No traffic violation, no erratic driving, no reasonable suspicion. Just a federal agent driving home on a Friday evening, obeying every traffic law, staying in his lane, maintaining proper speed. But Officer Carter saw him through the distorted lens of a rookie who'd absorbed more stereotypes than genuine training, who couldn't distinguish between actual violations and invented pretexts, and who was about to discover that making arrests based on skin color rather than probable cause has consequences that end careers. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Denver, Colorado. Interstate 25 southbound, the major north-south artery cutting through the heart of the metro area where thousands of commuters travel daily between work and home. Friday evening, 6:45 p.m., rush hour traffic flowing steadily in the fading autumn light. Temperature dropping toward the low 50s as the sun descended behind the Rocky Mountains to the west. Drivers eager to get home, start their weekends, leave work stress behind for 2 days. Cameron Ellis was 38 years old. He'd been with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives for 13 years, working cases that required meticulous investigation, patience under pressure, and the ability to navigate dangerous situations with both tactical skill and legal precision. 7 years in firearms trafficking, dismantling illegal gun networks that moved weapons across state lines. 4 years before that in arson investigation, working fires set to cover financial crimes or intimidate witnesses. 2 years in explosives before that, investigating bombing threats and illegal fireworks operations. He'd testified in federal court more than 40 times. He'd coordinated operations with FBI, DEA, and U.S. Marshals. He'd personally executed search warrants on armed suspects. His supervisors described him as thorough and unflappable. His colleagues called him the agent who never missed details that others overlooked. At 38 years old, Cameron Ellis was one of ATF Denver's most reliable investigators. Respected throughout federal law enforcement circles, and trusted with complex cases requiring both investigative intelligence and operational courage. That Friday evening, Ellis was simply heading home. He'd left the ATF field office at 6:15 p.m., later than planned, because he'd been finishing documentation on a firearms trafficking case with a court deadline approaching. Now he was driving his personal vehicle, a 3-year-old Honda Accord, southbound on I-25 toward his apartment in the Tech Center area. 20-minute drive on a good day, maybe 30 with Friday traffic. He wore dark jeans, a gray Henley shirt, and sneakers. His work clothes, the dress shirt and tie he'd worn to a morning court appearance, were folded in a gym bag on the back seat. His ATF credentials were in the center console where he always kept them, the black leather case containing his gold badge and federal identification card. His service weapon, a Glock 22, was secured in a locked case in the trunk per ATF policy for off-duty transport. He'd done absolutely nothing to attract police attention. No speeding, he was cruising at 62 in a 65 zone. No weaving, he stayed centered in the middle lane. No equipment violations, all lights functioning, registration current, insurance valid. His driving was textbook perfect because that's how federal agents drove, aware that any traffic stop could complicate their work if they carried credentials or case materials. Ellis had Miles Davis playing through his speakers, kind of blue, relaxing after a long week. He was thinking about the weekend ahead, sleeping in tomorrow, hitting the gym, maybe catching a Broncos game Sunday with friends from the office. Just another Friday commute, just another federal agent heading home. But Officer James Carter was patrolling I-25 in the southbound direction, and when he saw Ellis's Honda in his lane ahead, something triggered in his mind that would change both their lives forever. Do you think rookie officers should complete at least 18 months of supervised patrol before making solo traffic stops? Drop your answer below. James Carter had been with Denver PD for 11 months. In that short time, he'd already established patterns that should have raised serious concerns during his probationary period. His field training officer had documented 3 incidents where Carter made traffic stops based on what the FTO described as gut feelings rather than observable violations. Incident 1. Carter pulled over a Hispanic woman in a newer Lexus, claiming he thought the vehicle might be stolen. No stolen vehicle report existed. The woman was a pediatrician driving home from the hospital. The FTO noted in his report that Carter seemed surprised a Hispanic woman would legitimately own a luxury vehicle. Incident 2. Carter stopped a black man in a pickup truck for allegedly failing to signal a lane change. The FTO's dashboard camera showed the signal was used properly. When questioned, Carter insisted he thought he saw something suspicious about how the driver was sitting. The FTO's notes stated, Officer Carter appears to be initiating stops based on driver demographics rather than traffic violations. Incident 3. Carter detained an Asian couple in a Mercedes for nearly 20 minutes, running multiple database checks on the vehicle and both occupants, claiming the temporary registration tag looked fraudulent. The tag was legitimate, recently purchased from a dealership. The FTO's documentation read, Officer Carter demonstrates tendency to assume people of color in nice vehicles must have obtained them illegally. Despite these documented concerns, Carter had been cleared for solo patrol after the minimum required training period. Denver PD's staffing crisis meant supervisors felt pressure to move trainees into independent patrol positions as quickly as regulations allowed. Carter had passed the written tests. He hadn't committed any fireable offenses. His FTO's concerns were noted but not considered disqualifying. So Carter was approved for solo duty, his biases unchallenged, his assumptions unexamined, his judgment unrefined. And now he was patrolling Interstate 25 with full enforcement authority and minimal experience. That evening, Carter was driving northbound in the opposite lanes when he noticed Ellis's Honda in the southbound traffic. Later, in his incident report, Carter would claim he observed the vehicle drifting slightly within its lane. The dashcam footage would contradict this claim, showing Ellis's Honda maintaining perfect lane position. But in the moment, Carter's mind had already constructed a narrative. Black driver. Nice car for someone who looks young. Late evening. Probably stolen vehicle or drug courier. Carter crossed the median at the next authorized turnaround point, accelerated to catch up with Ellis's Honda, and activated his lights at 6:48 p.m. Ellis saw the flashing lights in his rearview mirror and felt his stomach tighten with a familiar dread. He was a federal law enforcement officer with 13 years of experience, and he knew exactly what was happening. He'd been pulled over before for driving while black. This wasn't new. It was just exhausting. He activated his turn signal, checked his mirrors, and carefully moved to the right shoulder. He brought the Honda to a complete stop, shifted into park, turned off the engine, and placed both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. He'd done this before. He knew the protocol. Carter approached the driver's side window, flashlight in hand, despite the fact that there was still plenty of daylight remaining. Through the window, he saw Ellis, hands on the wheel, looking straight ahead. License and registration. Ellis kept his voice calm and measured. Officer, before I reach for anything, I need to inform you that I'm a federal law enforcement officer with ATF. My credentials are in the center console. My service weapon is secured in the trunk. I'm going to move slowly to retrieve my documents. Carter's expression hardened immediately. Just show me your driver's license and registration. My federal credentials will explain everything. I'm Special Agent Cameron Ellis, ATF Denver Field Division. I've committed no traffic violation. I'd like to know why you stopped me. I'll decide what violations occurred. License and registration. Now. Ellis made his movements deliberately visible. He reached toward the center console with his right hand while keeping his left hand on the wheel. He opened the console and pulled out two items: his wallet containing his driver's license and his ATF credentials. He held up the credentials first. The black leather case, the gold ATF badge clearly visible, the federal identification card with his photo, name, and badge number. Officer, I'm Special Agent Ellis. This is my federal ID. You can verify my identity with ATF Denver. I'm off duty, heading home. I haven't violated any traffic laws. Carter stared at the credentials. In his mind, this confirmed his suspicions rather than refuted them. A black man with federal credentials, probably stolen or fake. Criminals were getting more sophisticated. Those could be fake. I need your driver's license. They're not fake. Call ATF right now to verify. The number is on the card. Driver's license. This is where inexperience intersects with prejudice. Officer Carter had stopped a vehicle with zero legal justification, no observed violation, no reasonable suspicion. Just a black driver, who Carter's biased mind flagged as suspicious. When presented with federal law enforcement credentials that should have immediately ended this stop with an apology, Carter couldn't accept what he was seeing. His assumptions were too deeply rooted. Ellis handed over his driver's license while still holding up his ATF credentials. Carter took the license, examined it, ran it through his system. It came back clean. Current address, no warrants, no violations, completely clear. But Carter wasn't satisfied. He walked back to his patrol car and spent 12 minutes running database checks. Ellis watched in his mirror, hands still on the wheel, feeling anger and humiliation. Building. 12 minutes. For a federal agent who'd shown credentials and committed no violation. When Carter returned, his approach was more aggressive. His hand rested on his service weapon. Step out of the vehicle. Ellis felt ice in his veins. Excuse me, I said, step out of the vehicle. I need to verify your identity. Officer, you've seen my credentials. You've run my license. I'm asking you to call ATF Denver Field Division right now. They'll confirm everything. Step out. Now! Ellis made a decision. He could refuse, assert his rights, and risk this escalating to violence. Or he could comply, document everything, and handle it through proper channels afterward. I'm complying under protest. I'm a federal agent. This is an unlawful detention. I've committed no traffic violation. My credentials are legitimate. He opened the door slowly and stepped out. Carter immediately ordered him to turn around and place his hands on the vehicle. Ellis complied. Carter began patting him down. I'm armed, Ellis said calmly. My service weapon is secured in a locked case in the trunk, per ATF off-duty policy. I'm not carrying on my person. Carter completed the pat-down, finding no weapon. But instead of releasing Ellis, he pulled out handcuffs. You're under arrest for obstruction and possession of fraudulent federal identification. Ellis's voice rose with controlled anger. Those credentials are not fraudulent. Call ATF, call the U.S. Attorney's Office, call anyone. You're making a catastrophic mistake. Turn around and put your hands behind your back. Officer Carter, I am Special Agent Cameron Ellis, badge number 3294, ATF Denver Field Division. I have committed no crime. I have violated no traffic law. You are arresting a federal law enforcement officer based on nothing. This is illegal detention and false arrest. Hands behind your back now. Carter handcuffed Ellis. The metal cuffs clicked shut, tight against Ellis's wrists. A federal agent with 13 years of experience, standing on the shoulder of Interstate 25, handcuffed by a rookie cop who couldn't believe that a black man might legitimately carry federal credentials. Traffic was slowing as drivers passed the scene. People had phones out recording. A federal agent being arrested during a traffic stop would be news by morning. Should officers face immediate suspension for arresting federal agents after seeing valid credentials? Let me know what you think. Carter placed Ellis in the back of the patrol car. Through the partition, Ellis could see Carter on his radio, likely calling for supervisor approval. This was about to get much worse for Carter. Sergeant Linda Morrison arrived 14 minutes later. She was a 22-year veteran who'd supervised dozens of rookies and developed a sharp eye for when officers were in over their heads. She pulled up behind Carter's patrol car and got out. "Carter, what's the situation?" Traffic stop turned into arrest. Subject has fake federal credentials, claims to be ATF, but I don't buy it. Morrison walked to the patrol car window. Through the glass, she saw Ellis still handcuffed, sitting upright, expression controlled but furious. "Sir, I'm Sergeant Morrison. Can you tell me what happened?" Ellis kept his voice measured. "Sergeant, I'm Special Agent Cameron Ellis, ATF Denver Field Division. I was driving home from work when Officer Carter pulled me over with no stated violation. I immediately identified myself and showed federal credentials. He claimed they were fake, arrested me for fraudulent ID and obstruction, and handcuffed me. My credentials are in my vehicle. I've requested verification multiple times. He's refused." Morrison walked to Ellis's Honda. She looked at the credentials lying on the front seat where Carter had placed them. She picked them up and examined them carefully. She'd worked with federal agents before. She'd seen ATF credentials, FBI badges, DEA IDs. She knew what legitimate federal credentials looked like. These were real. The badge quality, the holographic security features on the ID card, the seal quality, everything about them screamed authentic. Morrison pulled out her phone and called ATF Denver. The duty agent answered. Morrison identified herself and explained the situation. Confirmation came back in 90 seconds. Special Agent Cameron Ellis, active duty, firearms trafficking unit, 13 years of service, vehicle description matched, off duty at time of stop. Morrison thanked the agent and hung up. She turned to Carter, her face a mixture of fury and disbelief. "Carter, unlock those handcuffs right now." "Sergeant, I think he's lying. Those credentials could be... They're real. I just confirmed with ATF. You arrested a federal agent with legitimate credentials for no violation whatsoever. I thought I saw him drifting. Your dash cam will show whether that's true or not. Unlock him now." Carter unlocked Ellis's handcuffs. Morrison opened the car door herself. "Agent Ellis, I am deeply sorry. This is completely unacceptable. You're free to go. We'll conduct a full investigation." Ellis rubbed his wrists where the cuffs had bitten into skin. Red marks were clearly visible. He looked at Carter, then at Morrison. "Sergeant, I need the dash cam footage from this stop. I need Officer Carter's body camera footage. I need the radio transmissions. I need his written report. And I need the name of his supervisor and his FTO because this isn't a mistake. This is racial profiling that escalated to false arrest. You'll have everything. I'll personally ensure full cooperation." Carter stood frozen, finally understanding that his career had just ended on the shoulder of I-25. Ellis drove home 90 minutes later than planned, hands still shaking with rage. He called his supervisor, Special Agent in Charge Rebecca Winters, who'd worked with Ellis for 6 years. "This needs to be reported to Treasury OIG and DOJ. A Denver cop arrested me for being ATF, while black. File everything. I'll call the U.S. Attorney first thing tomorrow." By Saturday morning, the story was spreading. A witness who'd recorded video from their car had posted it online. Federal agent arrested during traffic stop after showing credentials. ATF investigator handcuffed by Denver rookie who claimed federal ID was fake. The outrage built quickly. Federal law enforcement organizations demanded answers. The National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives called for immediate termination. Civil rights attorneys contacted Ellis within hours. This wasn't just false arrest. This was a civil rights violation against a federal officer performing his duties. The lawsuit named Officer James Carter, Sergeant Morrison for inadequate supervision, Carter's field training officer for clearing him despite documented concerns, and the Denver Police Department. The claims were extensive and damning: false arrest without probable cause, unlawful detention and excessive force, violation of federal civil rights under color of law, racial profiling and discrimination, interference with a federal law enforcement officer, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligent training and supervision, failure to intervene in patterns of discriminatory policing. Denver's city attorneys reviewed the evidence and reached an inescapable conclusion. The case was legally indefensible. The dashcam showed no traffic violation. The body camera captured Ellis identifying himself immediately. The credentials were authentic. ATF had confirmed Ellis's identity. Carter had arrested a federal agent for no reason except racial bias. The city settled 18 months later. $2.6 million paid to Cameron Ellis, among the largest settlements in Denver history for a traffic stop gone wrong. Officer James Carter was terminated 13 weeks after the incident. The termination letter was final and comprehensive. Officer Carter conducted a traffic stop without reasonable suspicion or probable cause. He arrested a federal law enforcement officer after receiving valid credentials, refusing multiple opportunities to verify identity. He demonstrated the same pattern of racial profiling documented during field training. Officer Carter's judgment is fundamentally incompatible with professional law enforcement. Employment terminated immediately. Carter's name was entered into the National Decertification Index. His law enforcement career was over at 31, ended less than a year after it began. Carter attempted to appeal through his union. The union attorney reviewed the dashcam footage showing Carter arresting a federal agent with valid credentials and advised Carter that fighting the termination was futile. No defense existed. Carter released a brief statement through legal counsel. "I made serious errors in judgment and demonstrated bias that has no place in policing. I accept responsibility for my actions." Why do some officers assume federal credentials carried by black agents must be fraudulent? Comment your thoughts. The Denver Police Department faced intense scrutiny from multiple directions. How had Carter been cleared for solo patrol with 3 documented incidents of racial profiling during training? Why had his FTO's concerns been noted but not acted upon? What training existed to prevent officers from arresting federal agents? Internal Affairs conducted a comprehensive review. Their findings revealed systematic failures. Field training concerns documented but minimized due to staffing needs. No mechanism for preventing problem officers from completing probation if they passed minimum standards. Supervisors prioritizing filling patrol positions over protecting community members from biased policing. Insufficient training on federal law enforcement credential recognition. The Department of Justice opened a pattern and practice investigation. Their findings identified similar issues with 43 other Denver officers who'd been cleared for duty despite documented concerns during training. Sweeping reforms were mandated. Extended field training from 12 weeks to 9 months minimum. Mandatory federal agency coordination training. Immediate desk assignment for any officer with 3 documented profiling incidents. Automatic termination for officers who arrest federal agents after seeing valid credentials. Real-time review of all traffic stop footage. Independent Civilian Oversight Board. Quarterly analysis of stop patterns by officer. Special Agent Ellis testified at City Council hearings. His testimony was measured but powerful. "I'm a federal agent with 13 years of service. I've worked firearms trafficking, arson investigation, and explosives cases. I've testified in federal court 40 times. I've coordinated operations with every federal agency, and I was arrested on I-25 for driving home from work while black." He paused, letting the words land. "I showed Officer Carter my credentials immediately. Gold badge, federal ID, everything legitimate. I offered verification before he even asked for my license. None of it mattered because Carter had already decided what he was looking at. A black man in a nice car, therefore stolen vehicle or fake ID, therefore arrest." Another pause. "I had documentation Carter could verify with 1 phone call. I had a license that came back completely clean. I had committed 0 traffic violations, the dash cam proves that. But I was handcuffed on the highway shoulder for 26 minutes because a rookie cop couldn't imagine that a black man might legitimately be a federal agent." His voice hardened. Carter had 3 documented profiling incidents during training. 3. And your department cleared him for solo patrol anyway because you needed warm bodies on the street. That decision cost taxpayers $2.6 million. But the real cost is the message it sends that federal badges don't protect you from bias if you're black. Should police Departments automatically terminate officers who arrest federal agents with valid credentials? Drop your answer. This wasn't about one Friday evening traffic stop. This was about a system that documented concerns about an officer's judgment 3 separate times during training and then deployed him anyway. Cameron Ellis had federal credentials. He showed them immediately. He offered verification. He'd committed no violation. And he was arrested because James Carter saw a black man and couldn't accept that the federal badge might be real. This is how racial profiling operates within law enforcement. It's assuming black people can't hold positions of federal authority. It's seeing legitimate credentials and deciding they must be counterfeit because of the holder's skin color. It's arresting first and verifying never. Carter's career is over at 31. That's consequence. Denver paid $2.6 million. That's accountability. But money doesn't undo humiliation. Termination doesn't erase the trauma of being handcuffed on a highway for doing nothing wrong. The question is, what changes now? Do departments extend training periods so rookies actually learn before making solo stops? Do they take FTO concerns seriously instead of pushing officers through to fill staffing needs? Do they teach credential recognition before handing out badges and guns? Because if we don't fix the system that cleared James Carter despite 3 documented incidents, if we don't address the training that teaches officers to view black people as illegitimate, even with federal badges, then we're just waiting for the next stop, the next arrest, the next federal agent criminalized for existing while black. Comment if you believe this should be federal law. Any officer who arrests a federal agent after seeing valid credentials faces automatic permanent decertification nationwide. No exceptions. And if you think these stories need to be told, if you believe accountability starts with exposure and change, starts with pressure, hit that subscribe button. We're not stopping. We're going to keep exposing departments that deploy undertrained officers. We're demanding extended training periods, mandatory oversight, and real consequences for profiling. We're fighting for federal agents who deserve to drive home without being arrested for their skin color. This isn't about one rookie or one agent. It's about all of us and the system we refuse to accept.